GM. Welcome to Web3 Academy, your one trusted source to capitalize on the next big phase of the internet. Don't get caught in the hype cycle. I'm Jay Bird, joined by my co-host Kyle Reedhead, and we believe that Glo Dollar is going to change the world. That's why we're carving a path for doers to confidently build and invest in Web3.
Yeah, the beginning of, or the end over there of what you just say every single episode is really what you're saying is we believe that crypto is going to change the world, or Web3 is going to change the world. And the thing I love about this podcast is we found a use case that really could change the world, right? Stablecoins is the one use case that we've always said can change the world, just stablecoins as they are, because of the amount of people around the world that have inflating currencies. And so we always say it's the killer app for crypto. And then what Glo is doing is taking stablecoins and making it even better, doing something even better for the world. And I think that that's really cool. And I mean, these are the kind of things that we need to be spreading to the main normie world. They need to hear about projects like this, where, hey, millions, billions of people around the world can fight inflation by holding onto a stablecoin. And not only that, but by holding on to it, you then can help to end poverty. What a perfect 1-2 punch, right? And so super just excited to highlight what Glo is doing. I just share that with our listeners, and hopefully our listeners will share this episode with their friends and their family and other people in the space, because we need to get the word out about good, like really good things happening in the space. And this is one of them, no doubt.
Yeah. It's amazing how when Kyle and I first heard about Glo Dollar, it was like so obvious, this concept of, okay, if you have a stable coin, you make yield off of holding the currency that you are backed by. So in the case of Glo Dollar, you hold USD and you make yield from that. And that is generating big profit for these large stablecoin companies. Well, Glo Dollar is saying, okay, let's just take that yield and let's donate it. And they're estimating that for every $20,000 that somebody holds in Glo Dollar, they can lift one person out of extreme poverty. There's currently 700 million people in the world living on extreme poverty, which means they have they have less than $2 in income per day. So you just think about, like, that's a huge mission that just makes me feel so good to be in the blockchain and Web3 space. And Jeff, who is the CEO of Glo Dollar, who joins us today, comes from an academic background. He worked at Creighton University. He was an economist, a research professor, and he really saw all these stablecoin companies making so much profit and was like, oh, okay, here's an opportunity to take that profit and turn it into good, mainly because stablecoins are not a high capital startup or high resource intensive business to run. It's an incredible business model. I mean, Kai, maybe you and I should stop Web3 Academy and start a stablecoin company. Jeez. But I think the opportunity here that Jeff really presents is so great for the entire crypto space, because it will not cost you anything to hold Glo Dollar. There is no impact to you. And just by holding Glo Dollar, you could potentially lift somebody out of poverty. It's such a great story.
It's so simple. And so without further ado, why don't you guys all learn about it? And if you get a chance, switch your USDC, switch your USDT into Glo Dollar and help us all make a difference in the world. But before we listen to that episode, let's take a quick second to hear from our sponsors.
Modern newsletters are built on Paragraph. That's right. Paragraph is a brand new newsletter platform that combines the best parts of Web 2 and Web 3 to supercharge newsletters for both writers and readers. Build a community, not just an audience. Paragraph uses blockchain tech to allow readers to collect and own the words that matter to them. This takes reading a newsletter to the next level. With Paragraph, readers can mint, collect, and show off quotes from their favorite newsletters. This opens new possibilities, like creators sharing revenue with fans. I also love their new feature, Paragraph AI. This integrates GPT-4 natively in Paragraph to create, edit, and improve your writing effortlessly with one click. And guess what? We at Web3 Academy are on board and have already moved our content over to Paragraph. We believe this is the future of newsletters because of the profound engagement it creates between creators and fans. So, whether you're a creator, writer, or an avid reader, it's time to check out Paragraph and capitalize on the opportunity of being early. GM Jeff, welcome to Web3 Academy.
Yeah, great to be here. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, really appreciate you and your team. We don't get enough guests on the show that are focused on making the world a better place beyond just making money easier to move and all the amazing things that blockchain is doing. And don't get me wrong, I believe blockchain is making the world a better place, but the charitable side, we don't get enough of the charitable side. So Glo Dollar is a stable coin with a charitable cause, and your mission is to end extreme poverty. I just want to start at sort of the beginning of, if I buy and hold some Glo stablecoin, how does that lift somebody out of extreme poverty?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll explain that for sure. And yeah, to highlight, the team is great. You know, you mentioned that, and this is crypto. This is a highly speculative space, and getting a team built that like is aligned on this mission is awesome. That's what we need in this space. So I really appreciate the team and everybody's putting efforts into this, and your interest in what we're trying to accomplish, and you're excited about it. So thanks so much on that. Yeah, Glo is very simple. It's a stable coin, just like a USDC, a Tether, the fiat-backed stable coins. You buy some Glo, it's backed by fiat assets, and it's US treasuries. They're actually interest-earning assets. The interest we earn on that, we're going to donate to an organization called Give Directly, and they are on the ground doing really, really powerful programs to lift people out of extreme poverty. So $40 a month in a Give Directly program is enough to lift somebody out of extreme poverty. And we're talking about the lowest, poorest population. It's like under $2.15 a day. So it has a huge impact. So really, it's a very passive type of philanthropy in terms of you're not donating yourself when you buy Glo dollars. You're buying just a stable coin that has a lot of utility in the space, and over time, just in a lot of our financial applications. But then on our back end, we're earning interest on the reserve and making sure that's donated. And this is a very profitable business model right now.
It's funny you mentioned that it's a very profitable business model. We've talked lots about Circle and Tether and how much profit they are making right now. It's insane. And I want to talk about that in a second. What is considered extreme poverty? I think you mentioned $2 a day basically in income is considered extreme poverty. And how many people in the world live in extreme poverty?
Yeah, so it's $2.15 is the extreme poverty number. And, you know, these estimates it's sometimes hard to like figure out what that specific number is, but around 700 million. So we're talking about 10% of the world population, like getting not quite 10%, but yeah, it's at 650, 700 million are the numbers that kind of get estimated the last couple of years. So it's a huge major problem. And if we're going to build a super scalable model that could potentially donate millions and billions of dollars, like if we get to the scale of Tether, we're a huge charitable mechanism of giving, and we want to tie it to something that, hey, this is a huge social problem in the world. And I think that can really help kind of change the narrative of crypto and kind of embracing this as an ecosystem. So it's a big problem. We're just trying to find something that can really make an impact on it.
And for context, Tether and Circle, when we were running the numbers, I can't remember exactly what they are now, but Tether is generating multiple billions a quarter right now. And then Circle was hundreds of million. It's not at the billions per quarter yet, but it's hundreds of millions per quarter. And just again, if those don't understand how they do that, it's when you give $1 to get a stable coin, or you buy a stable coin, if anything, there's $1 that's being backed there. They just take that $1, they put it into US treasuries, which is yielding a risk-free rate of about 5.2% right now, meaning there's no additional risk. The liquidity's there. So it's not like your stable coins, the dollars you're giving stable coins have any sort of like risk to them because it's backed by the government, and it's liquid, meaning they can sell them and buy them at any time they want. And so that's what's paying Tether and Circle. They're not giving you any of that yield. They're taking it all as pure profit, which is in the billions for Tether. And what you're saying is we're doing that exact same model, but instead of taking billions of dollars in profit, if we were that large as Tether, you guys are donating that to those in extreme poverty, which is actually super cool. And I don't know how much detail we want to go into, but if you just think about it, it's the exact same UX as if you bought Tether or if USDT, USDC, except in the background, you happen to be doing a really good deed versus letting two companies make hundreds of millions to billions. It's an amazing model. I love it.
Yeah, and it's the value of a stablecoin is created by the person who adopts it, the integrators. We don't have to like do anything more to issue another stablecoin. There's not like a customer support business we need to scale up because we have a product with something that needs that support. It's like us being at $1 million market cap versus 10 billion. It's the same thing. It's the same exact product. So I really think it's a really efficient model to actually build around as a nonprofit. And yeah, the impacts, we have to compete still. So part of this is conversations like this, getting the word out, and also getting people bought into like, we can choose a better stablecoin. I want to say better in terms of like the product itself. I'm not going to lie, it's ERC20 smart contract. Yeah, but like the actual mechanism of what it's actually accomplishing on the back end is really important. So yeah, and you mentioned US Treasuries. We want to be as trusted, transparent as possible. And we have no incentive as an organization to take additional risk with reserve assets. It's ultimately customer assets. And for-profit company, I'm not saying the current ones are taking risk. They might be, but it just creates an inherent incentive structure to maximize those profits and take additional risks. Like banks that get too levered up don't want to fail, but they do because of that profit motive. So I think that's an important aspect too. Like we can build a more trusted model, and just the secondary effect is a big impact.
So you mentioned what would be possible. Where are you right now? What's your market cap right now? And at your current stage, what are you able to do? And maybe we can talk about where you are now and then what's possible in the future.
Yeah, so the market cap is $1.4 million total. And yeah, it's very small. We're just getting started in terms of growing this. A lot of our efforts is building what we call the Glo Consortium. We're up to like over 20 organizations that are using Glo Dollar, integrating with it. They already use USDC or USDT, add Glo Dollar, now you have this other option, and it's creating utility for our token. And it's part of this cold start problem. Like we have to create utility to make it useful for general purposes. Like the mission goes a long way, but it still has to have like a practical application. So that's where we're at. That's a big focus. And the market cap, anybody who wants to help support us there can just go buy Glo or just share the word that if you have a platform that's using crypto and stables, let them know like, hey, you should adopt USDGLO. I want to use Glo instead of USDC or something. So that's something as well.
Right now, is that available on, like you can buy it on Uniswap? What about on exchanges like, I don't know, Coinbase, Binance, Kraken? Like, is it available anywhere yet? How far along are you guys on that?
Yeah, so it's mostly decentralized finance right now. It's part of this process too is building enough early market cap and interest and utility to get a Coinbase interested and actually having the liquidity to support something like that. But yeah, so it's on Uniswap. We're on a few chains there. So like Ethereum, Polygon, Celo is a really good one in terms of accessibility with really low fees. So that's kind of the DeFi space where it's really accessible. But we have some really good partners too, if people want to just almost buy it directly from us. And we use Braille.xyz as a issuing partner. They built out a platform where you can actually very quickly and securely and in a very trusted manner issue stable coins. And then they've been our partners, since we launched. So it's been a really useful relationship there. And you can just onboard with Braille if you're in the right states they currently cover and directly issue. You don't have to go to an exchange. And I think that's really important for businesses that want to integrate with Glo and make sure they have that one-to-one backing at all times. You don't have to worry about any slight fluctuations in trading or slippage. And we're using like OTC Desk and a market maker that helps us with some of this. I'm getting into the market as well. So yeah, does that answer the question in terms of kind of where we're at? I wish we could say we're like on Coinbase, super easy, but that'll take time.
I love that you brought up Braille, and I want to talk a little bit more about that because I do think that's a very interesting tool and partner that you're using in your ecosystem that a lot of crypto builders and founders could benefit from. But before we do, I just want to talk a little bit more about what's possible. So let's say you were at 2 million market cap or 10 million market cap, or maybe let's say you had the same market cap as USDC or USDT. Can you give us an idea of what is possible in the future?
So in terms of impact?
Yeah, in terms of impact, exactly.
When you get to like the billions of market caps, like truthfully, it's dependent on interest rate environment as well.
Right.
We like to estimate if on average we had like a 2.5% to 3% interest rate, what kind of impact you could have. And the numbers we estimate,
that's a very fair estimate, especially in today's current situation.
Yeah, and I'm not going to, like I have an economics background, like we just had like a world of 0% interest rates for 15 years. I don't think that's a normal interest rate environment. So I think 2.5 to 3 is a good estimate. I'm pretty confident in making those claims. Happy to debate anybody on that. But we just estimate $20,000 of market cap leads to lifting one person out of extreme poverty. And that's because that 20,000 at that more conservative interest rate generates about $480 of interest over a year. And so you kind of think of like $1 billion of market cap divided by 20,000, you're getting a lot of people lifted out of extreme poverty. And it's also just a nice number to say like, hey, if I want to make an impact, I'm not donating 20,000, I'm buying a stable coin. But like if I hold that a year, it's having a dramatic impact on a person's life that lives in extreme poverty. So that's the figure I'm confident in. And it's also, it's very easy to kind of understand if this thing scales, the impact is pretty substantial.
So if one person holds 20,000 in Glo, then for 1 year, basically, you will make equivalent revenue from that. Now, is that revenue the total amount of revenue that you would make from that treasury holding? Or are you also you have expenses to run the business, how are you breaking that down? How much comes back? Because I would think what this does is this probably gives us an idea of how much profit the USDT and the USDCs are making right now versus how much they need to actually run their teams.
Right. Yeah. So we want to build it in a way like this is what we're currently building as an organization. We're saying our operations, we want those funded by donors. And then we can say like, okay, stablecoin, that business model, the revenue from it, we donate 100% of that. And when I say 100%, we do understand like there are certain fees with using issuing partner and all those things. But we really want to shift that to its own, like, okay, operations are funded by like a group of donors that help us out. And this model is very similar to Charity Water. Charity Water has a group of donors called The Well. They fund operations. And then if I'm on the website, I want to donate $200 to Charity Water. That whole $200 goes to building wells. So it's a very trusted model in terms of, the money, your participation in the movement isn't kind of crafted in a way like, oh, it looks like I'm going to siphon off a whole bunch of money just for the leadership team and there's an incentive to do that. We want to have that separation for trust. And I do like Charity Water's model. They've been super successful. So it is challenging though. We're trying to raise donor funds on the operation side and we need that help. And I'm very confident at scale showing this impact, we could raise a whole bunch of money. It's that startup. We need that 2 years of growth to really, make sure this is something that's going to sustain in the market. And that's the fun challenge behind it. So like these things help.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about that. The stablecoin world is becoming quite competitive. For a while there, it wasn't so competitive, but now, PayPal's even stepping in. There's a lot of different stablecoins coming out. Now, I think it's the killer app of crypto, of blockchain. And so I think the demand for it is about to just go, off the charts. And so I think it's a great industry to be in, that's for sure. But curious, you found your partner in what was it called? Braille to make this work. You've kind of got the operating thing figured out. How do you get from, you're at 1.4 million now. How do you get there to 10 million, 100 million? What's the plan? What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I mentioned the consortium. It really is key partnerships early on.
Okay.
And you're building utility, but you're also building a lot of like credibility too.
Right.
And when people see that, like, oh, this group of companies is supporting Glo, these donors are supporting Glo, the trust story starts to build. We had this approach to like, building utility in the consortium and then also approaching DAOs. Be like, we see you're holding stablecoins already. And we really believe in this world, like we should have more stablecoin diversity. I really think like, I wouldn't want to take over the entire stablecoin market. I think that's just not a smart thing for the whole ecosystem. Tether is kind of that right now. So we need to kind of, as an ecosystem, like let's de-risk, let's find other stablecoins and build a more diversified portfolio for like the infrastructure we're building. And I think that's really important. So I think as we build the trust layer and story and kind of that early utility, we'll see usage grow substantially because it's going to be a easier onboarding like organization, like, oh, it looks like all these other people are trusting it. I don't have to worry about them pulling the rug and stuff like that. Now, our approach, kind of part of this is like, we want to reach out to DAOs. We're starting to do that. We had a big win with Gitcoin. A proposal to diversify some of they have like a matching funds portfolio. And yeah, let's start with $100,000. And that was passed. So I love the Gitcoin community there for passing that. that's just the start. Like that could easily be a $2 million type of allocation. Like anywhere you see millions of dollars in stable coins, as people get comfortable with us as like an early stable coin and we have the model it's fiat backed, we're not going to try to do anything crazy like Terra Luna. You get pretty quick growth. And that's kind of the network effect thing. It might be slow at the beginning, but with enough kind of foundation built, I really am optimistic we're going to have some substantial market cap growth, and hopefully it comes quick. So,
and how long have you guys been in existence for? Give us sort of just like a timeline so we understand where you guys are at that has kind of gotten you to this 1.4 million market cap.
Yeah, it's been about 3 months. I would say like the 100,000 from Gitcoin is like our largest one-time purchase. We have, many holders, but yeah, it's basically a lot of people interested in it. And then the next phase is getting those big purchases and big supporters, and really back to the stablecoin diversification aspect. Like the capital's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Got to figure out how we can best position to make these transfers, because really there's liquidity issues. Like you have to kind of build that support over time as well. Like if someone wants to buy 10 million today, Uniswap's not going to support that. So we have to connect them to our partners there. All those things take time. But yeah, I'm very optimistic. You mentioned you killer app of crypto. I love that. That's why I'm doing this. And then also like, I love the real world asset trend, and stablecoins are RWA. And once we see that ecosystem being built, especially with a lot of traditional finance on Wall Street, stables just settling a lot of different things is going to lead to a much larger overall market. If we just capture 10% of a $1 trillion market, that's a massive nonprofit mechanism. So
we actually just did a report a couple of weeks ago on real world assets in a deep dive. And the big thing that we came apart from it was about yield bearing stablecoins. It's not a big thing yet in the industry, but it's like, it appears to be coming. It makes like complete sense, which is, for those that didn't read that report, is basically think of Circle and Tether. Right now, they take 100% of the profit, which is they put in US treasuries, they take it all. What some companies are working on is, well, how about I give that yield back to the holder of the stablecoin, and the stablecoin actually earns. So all you got to do is buy that stablecoin that's earning money, and you're basically getting a yield on that stablecoin without even using like a DeFi protocol. And then I heard about you guys. I was like, oh, whoa, okay. So there's like, you could earn or you could just donate, like super cool. And the thing I thought of right away was like, why not? And I don't know if this is a technical thing or what, but can you guys start to pass? Like, could you pass 50% or 20% onto the holder of the stablecoin, and then the other rest goes to donations? And that way you have like a bit of incentive for people to hold it, personal incentive, and then also the incentive around donation. Or you're just like, we don't want to deal with that. There's maybe too many complications there. But that was just the first thing I thought of when I heard about Glo.
Yeah, and this is definitely something. I love the idea of like interest earning stablecoins. Now, one thing, tying a cash flow to your stablecoin turns it into a security really fast. So you have expectation of your profit. And one of the like judo moves is, we're doing this in the US. I think it's important it's in the US as a trusted model. Yeah. There's a lot of arguments why you don't want to do something in the US right now in crypto, but I definitely want to try it here because we want to have that trusted model. And there are other places we can do it, but yeah, so I think that's the biggest issue. It's like we have even more kind of restrictions in the US in terms of even sharing some of that revenue with partners. So I know like USDC and the Coinbase relationship, they shared revenue for like marketing purposes. And then you had like Paxos and PayPal. I think SEC is doing some investigations there. Paxos and Binance because of the revenue sharing stuff. Our judo kick move is basically like, hey, we're a nonprofit. If those things seem too much like securities, there's some actually exemptions around nonprofits, but we're not a security for sure because we're actually just donating it. Right. No one's earning revenue there. That's one of these competitive advantages. Like if there is a world where we have really, really big restrictions on the security side with stables, I hope not. I think that'd be bad for the US kind of crypto ecosystem. But we would be well positioned to be that kind of solution there. But yeah, I wish I could pass along some of that revenue, and maybe there is a change in the future regulatorily wise that you could do that, but it's going to be tricky. And there's also a lot of get all the details, but I have a feeling these will be issued from different jurisdictions, not the US. But you're right, it's competitive. Like it would add some competition to what we're trying to accomplish.
I want to come back to two things that you've mentioned. One is you've used the word utility a bunch, and the current focus on building the Glo consortium and ensuring that your holders are getting utility. Is the utility simply the charitable cause? Is that the utility, or is there additional utility that, I mean, Kyle mentioned yield bearing. I don't think you're doing that, but is there other utility that you're thinking about or that you're building in?
Yeah. So just fundamentally utility of the stablecoin right now. So yeah, the mission, like you are holding a stablecoin that has social impact, whether that is like a signaling type of utility, if you want to tell people or like show that your DAO is doing it, like a CSR, ESG, that's all something that's really useful. The store of value of stablecoins. So in a lot of developing countries, maybe there is in non-developing countries, currency fluctuations are a real big thing. You know, a lot of loss of value in certain countries like Argentina and stuff like that. So the access to the US dollar is very easy through a stablecoin. So that's just fundamental utility just for all, you know, trusted fiat-backed stablecoins. And then part of this is, well, how do you differentiate with the tethers and USDCs? Well, we have the mission. That's one aspect. But it's also, I think, there's going to be newer companies that are being built and utilizing stables. If we can get into some early companies, be kind of like their focused stablecoin that they build around and they grow to big companies, then you start to see like, oh, they have like this partnership with the key participant in ecosystem. And I don't know, I see things like Goldfinch uses USDC on their protocol. I would love to see like USDGLO used there as like the denominated product. So if we can get more things denominated in Glo, then you start to see utility as like the secondary effect. Mm-hmm. Does that help? I don't have a great answer in terms of like one specific thing. It's a lot of different places.
For utility of stablecoin, it's more around like the usability throughout the crypto ecosystem, right? Like you said, USDT is often paired with other assets on, let's say, Uniswap, right? Or maybe USDC is sometimes as well. The more you can have Glo be that, then that's technically utility, right? Or other things, backing, you know, I don't know, having apps use it for like credit cards and things like that. There's probably many different things that you can do to use a stablecoin where the company still has to actually enable USDT or USDC or Glo. And so the more that you guys can be that, then it just makes more sense for people to hold on to it rather than something else, right?
Yep. Yeah. And I would love to be the right-hand side of a trading pair on like a really popular exchange. And it's like, you just got to get to a point. Like I've had conversations. It's like, oh, this would be awesome. It seems like a easy, like plug and play with the other fiat-backed stablecoin like Tether. We have to get to a level of liquidity where they can actually support that.
Right.
That takes time. Like the Tether's liquidity moat is really strong. And yeah, so like people watching, buy some Glo, help us on the liquidity side. But yeah, those take time.
Speaking of utility, I had one other idea when I first heard about Glo, and I was like, I wonder if they're thinking of this. So I want to ask you, and just maybe you guys have thought of this already, maybe not. But when I heard that you guys were donating the funds, I was like, okay, that's super cool. Now I know you have one spot that you donate to, and then they kind of figure out what to do with the funds. But all I could think about was, well, it's a token on the blockchain. You could form a DAO around the stablecoin that then votes and creates proposals around where the funds are actually being donated to all around the world. And I thought that could just be such a cool thing. There's some utility. That's probably some nice like hype that you could generate because people get to participate in charitable cause and you're just holding $1. That's all you're doing. But that $1 is also a vote on where that you get to donate, which is really cool and just not something possible in the traditional world. Have you guys thought about turning the stablecoin also into like a DAO?
Yeah. So like it's all these ideas I'm totally on board with in terms of like exploring. There's a part to it like, yeah, that's super cool. I think those ideas could like really work and create a lot of interest. At our stage, we're trying to create like a very simple, trusted model to what we're trying to sell. You know, as a nonprofit organization, it's like, hey, we give directly. Their efficiency is outstanding. They show impact. It's going to go to something that's going to actually make an impact. Like they're already doing that work. It's hard for us to say that when we don't really know where the funds are going to go, or we don't know like. We just don't know if we can vet it as like funds should go there. So I think at some point, if we start building a big market cap and we have a lot of funds, you're like, okay, we want to stick with extreme poverty, give directly as our main partner. And then you find other partners, or you have like, let's start with 10% of our annual revenue goes to the DAO decision, see how that process works. And like, so you're always making impact and making sure people are aligned with like, hey, I'm a donor to Glo. I want to make sure my money is going to productive uses. And so, yeah, I would love to incorporate ideas around that. And like public goods funding needs a lot of help. if we start generating millions and billions, definitely want to support projects that do that, like Impact Market. They're trying to solve extreme poverty with some really unique decentralized stuff. But yeah, I think those ideas are awesome, and they would create a lot of attention.
Smart to keep it simple in the beginning. You got to keep it simple.
Yeah.
And also, DAOs don't have the greatest track record of doing the best things yet. So probably not the greatest move anytime soon, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's something to consider, though. It would create a lot of interest, and I think that people like the transparency around why are you choosing one organization over another. And a lot of this, too, like, if we're building this, it should become an ecosystem thing. Like, let the ecosystem own the stablecoin they use, and it doesn't have to be one small organization that controls everything. So a lot of these decentralized ideas in crypto, and I hope it gets to a place where, like, these things are like, oh, hey, you're big enough or you're influential enough, let's start decentralizing governance.
One thing that I find very interesting is, and we've touched on this a little bit, is launching a stablecoin does not require a big team. It does not require large capital investment. And so it enables opportunities to do creative new use cases for a stablecoin. I'm curious, maybe you can talk about what are the startup resources needed to start a stablecoin, and how did that impact your decision to start Glo? Did you know right away that you wanted, I guess maybe you can tell us a little bit of the origin story and what led you to starting Glo.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I met Sid Sabrandi. He's the founder and CEO of GitLab. He's our founding donor. He's an awesome partner to help us get this thing into the market. We actually started Glo with a pretty, resource heavy model. So like going back to Braille helps us out a lot in terms of being able to issue this. So there are expenses. Like you're doing it in the US as a very trusted model. There's a lot of regulatory things you have to work through, like MTL licenses, and you want to try to get a federal charter and stuff like that. That's just really expensive. The platform, we actually were originally building on Prime Trust and having our own issuing platform like you see on Circle, because we didn't have a partner with like Braille yet. They're very new to the market. So that we had like some engineers building that, and it was awesome. They did great work, and it would have been a really good partner. Prime Trust, obviously everybody in the crypto space knows that company didn't work out. They had some issues. I'm kind of glad it happened before we actually issued the token, because that could have been kind of tough for the ecosystem and like our community. But really, Braille is the key. It's like you can run a stablecoin efficiently through a partner like that. And then operational expenses are, one, supporting the stablecoin in terms of getting it to market, partnerships, ecosystem, community, all those things. And then marketing. You have to actually want to grow up fast. Like this thing only works at scale. You don't want to create something small and just spend money with no impact. Get to scale as fast as possible and make sure that happens. So that is investment, but I think it's one of those things like if you don't spend the money to actually grow fast enough to get there, you're not going to have enough scale to actually support your nonprofit with the impact side of things. You don't want to continuously just spend money, but not having that impact. So all those things are really important to help move this thing quicker. But yeah, does that help? Is there any details you're curious about?
I'm curious to touch on Braille a little bit more. What role does Braille play for Glo?
Yeah, think of them as they issue the stablecoin. And when I say issue, they have the regulatory standing to do so as a money transmitter. And each state in the United States requires you to do what they call an MTL, money transmitter license. You can also transmit money or issue money through bank charters. That's another path. Braille is starting with the MTL side. So they have a tech platform built. You go to their website. We have a Glo Dollar page. You go through a KYB type process, onboard an entity. And then just like Circle's platform, you can wire in money and get issued Glo $1-to-$1. It's not like an exchange. It's like this is an issuance from the actual issuing partner. And so they built all that tech for us, and they actually allow anybody to issue a stable coin. They have their own stable coin. So it's like one platform for multiple uses. And so it also acts as kind of like an exchange between different stables if people want to use it for their organization. So all that cost is basically third party. They hold the assets, the treasury assets as well. And they're, it's part of this trust story too, is making sure a company like that are they going to be good stewards, and do we have enough insight into their organization and they've been really, really good and transparent and kind of a trusted partner. The founder is Ben Milne. He started Dwolla, I don't know, over 10 or 15 years ago now. He knows the payment space really well. He's a really trusted individual in fintech and financial services. So just a really overall great partner that makes, us doing this as a nonprofit, if we didn't have them, it'd be really hard. So good stuff.
If Braille holds the holding, do they also retain the earnings then? Like, at what point does earnings pass through to you?
Yeah, it's like a revenue share type of arrangement. Yeah, the earnings do pass through in that sense.
Okay, awesome. So Braille's a powerful tool that anybody could use to build a stablecoin very simply. It's incredible. I want to show somebody in TradFi something like Braille. I don't think people understand how quickly we are developing new money rails in a out-of-the-box solution like Braille.
Right, and that's the key. Like, once this becomes a very frictionless environment, and it's like, oh, I can just simply integrate with the stablecoin infrastructure, you're going to see just dollars flowing, but you're using a stablecoin at some point. It's just it's just going to create a frictionless settlement platform.
You mentioned before we hit record that you also had recently partnered with Rain Cards. Tell us a little bit about that partnership and what that will enable.
Yeah, Rain is awesome. You can use an actual credit card, and it's collateralized by crypto. So we partnered with them. They're going to have Glo Dollar supported on their platform. So you could buy some Glo Dollar, put it as your collateral for your credit card, and then, buy goods like you do with any other credit card. And they'll use your collateral as the funds. So it's basically you're holding crypto, using crypto, but using the Visa/MasterCard network, just like you would with any other payments. So again, it's starting to build that kind of crypto rails for just like what we're normally using finance for. And I think that's the trend. Like, it's going to be a much more efficient system with those type of rails. But yeah, Rain they're just getting ramped up too. And I think it's going to be a nice offering. I think crypto companies are going to be interested in it because they want to support the crypto ecosystem. But then if they see like cost advantages and just the seamless use of crypto backend for traditional companies, I think we're going to see some growth there as well. So that's what helps grow market cap. We have that use case like, hey, you need collateral. If Glo is the same as USDC in terms of the amount of collateral without pretty close risk profile, I hope we can use our message and get the word out to use us instead.
I hope so too. If somebody wants to get involved, you mentioned earlier, buy some Glo. How can they get involved? How can they support and become part of this mission to end extreme poverty?
Right, yeah. So buying Glo is a great way to start. So check out those pools on Uniswap. Twitter, we're really kind of building a community. We have a Discord as well. That's important to kind of keep engaged. And then the Glo Consortium. It's basically, if you're part of a company working in the space, if you're leading a founder of a company, get in touch with us. We'd love to figure out a way we can work together. And this consortium isn't a huge lift in terms of you don't have to do a whole bunch. It's as simple as like, hey, integrate, support Glo. You could donate to our organization. That's helpful. Just adopt Glo. Help us co-market it. That's all really useful. So you're leading an organization, crypto space, want to help out the mission. And we kind of say it's like these organizations are embedding philanthropy in their operations. They're empowering this business model. That's super important. So yeah, and if you work for a company that's in crypto, tell leadership, hey, we should start supporting something like this and support an organization that's trying to, I call it change the narrative of crypto into something that like the ecosystem. Like I would love the New York Times to write about, hey, look, this crypto project generates millions of dollars for a social cause and the whole ecosystem uses it.
We could use a headline like that in this space.
Right? Yeah. And that's the goal. And, it's going to take time. We're not going to get to $80 billion tether market cap overnight. But, the small steps, fast enough and with enough time and enough people engaged, it's definitely doable. We're not inventing something brand new. We're just inventing a better way to think about it.
Mm-hmm. I think for listeners too, you don't even necessarily have to buy Glo. You can just swap your existing stablecoins into Glo, which is just, in terms of marketing, is just a better term for a lot of people. Like if you have USDC or USDT just sitting in your wallet doing nothing, put it in Glo. Why wouldn't you do that?
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
It just makes complete sense. You're doing nothing with it in USDC or USDT. You might as well have it in Glo. So, buy Glo if you need some stables, but also if you already have stables, just swap it over.
Yeah, just swap it. And that's the goal. Like, that's why this DAO approach is, we can see DAOs are holding stables. Let's diversify it. And I love that. I'm going to start saying swap a lot more.
Okay, before we wrap here, Jeff, want to just ask you a couple of fun speed round questions. What's an NFT you'll never sell?
Sandbox. I have a Sandbox NFT early on. And for some reason, the price went up to like 20,000 or 30,000 for these little, I didn't even check it. Then it went way down. But it's just kind of like this token of like remembrance from that era. It's like that plot of land. I don't know. That's just a fun one. I'm like, I'm not going to sell this. I'm not even going to watch it. I want to see what happens in 10 years, what it's actually doing. So
I feel the same way about my Moonbird.
Good.
Could have made me a lot of money. Didn't. Now it's sentimental value more than real value. One thing
I get notifications and emails like, oh, someone bid on your Sandbox real estate, and it's starting to pick up again. So it's like, okay, the bull market's coming back. That's my little proxy. It's like,
how many emails you get per week?
Yeah, it was pretty quiet for last 6 months, but this month's been pretty good.
There you go. There's the biggest bull market signal we've heard in a while. One thing you've bought recently for under $100 that brings you joy does not have to be a crypto product.
Oh, interesting. Brings me joy. I'm a big tea drinker, so I bought some really nice tea, and it was like, oh, do I spend this much on tea? It was like $50, but it's really good. So it's sitting in front of me.
That's great. What flavor of tea is it?
It's called tea leaves.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a green tea. It's like a fancy green tea. But yeah, that's what I got right now. Sorry, that's not the most interesting thing. It's just tea. It's just
good. No, I love it. I love tea. If you had a billboard that 1 billion people were going to see, what would you write on it?
That's a really good question. I would say it'd have to be take an action, like a call to action, which would be buy Glo Dollar. Maybe the sentence before that is 1 billion. That's a lot. I don't know. Is there 1 billion users in stablecoins yet? No. So let's make it more broad. Let's say transform how you think about money.
I like that.
Buy Glo Dollar to lift everybody out of extreme poverty. Like, if we have 1 billion people doing that, I think we could do that.
Yeah.
And extreme poverty. Yeah.
And extreme poverty. I like hearing you try to think that right on your toes there. Building it out. That was good.
Well, I couldn't just... it's got to be strategic, right?
Yeah.
That's all this project is like, how do we actually get into the market? It's like we're competing with super capitalized companies.
Yeah.
And like, you have to be super strategic on how we, talk about this and get in front of the right people. And so,
as Jay asked you that question, you're like, man, I would love a billboard that reached 1 billion people right about now.
Yeah, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we don't reach quite 1 billion people yet, but I hope that everybody listening to this show will seriously consider putting some of their money into Glo Dollar, swap some of your stable coins in, especially if you're just holding those stable coins and you're not doing anything with them. You might as well make them do work for good versus putting more profit into the hands of a couple big private companies. Jeff, appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Thanks for the interest in what we're trying to accomplish. And yeah, everybody watching, I just appreciate the intrigue and any support.
Thanks for listening, and everybody have an awesome day.
Thank you for listening to Web3 Academy, your one trusted source to capitalize on the next big phase of the internet. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it and subscribe or follow so that you don't miss the next one. While you're at it, there's a link in the description for our free newsletter where we provide timely and relevant Web3 insights so you can confidently build and invest in Web3. Make sure to subscribe today. One final note. This podcast is for educational purposes only, and nothing we say is financial advice. Crypto and Web3 are risky, and you should never invest more than you're willing to lose. Thank you, friends, and see you in the next one.